JamesAllen.com is the online destination to easily design a customized engagement ring and save up to 50% compared to traditional stores. You pick a diamond, whether it's lab-created or earth-created, James Allen has over 200,000 conflict-free stones. Then you pick your ring setting and metal. And if you need some help, they have real-time diamond consultations available, where an expert can walk you through it all. Get 25% off your order at JamesAllen.com, code PODCAST. That's JamesAllen.com, code PODCAST.
Imagine the softest sheets you've ever felt. Now imagine them getting even softer over time. I'm here to tell you about Boll & Branch sheets. In a recent customer survey, 96% replied that Boll & Branch sheets get softer with every wash. They're made from the rarest organic cotton and designed to get even softer over time. Try their sheets with a 30-night guarantee plus 15% off your first order with code Odyssey. So head to BOLLandbranch.com today. Exclusions apply. See site for details.
Hello everyone, welcome into the Friday Walkthrough. I'm Cole Carmody alongside Monty Spiller. K-State is 2-0 after a win over Troy. Now they get to head to Columbia, Missouri to take on the Tigers. Before we get into that, we want to let you know we are sponsored by our good friends at Booth Creek Wagyu. Remember to elevate your tailgate this season with our friends from Booth Creek Wagyu. Their ranch is located just north of Manhattan and proudly raises authentic Wagyu beef from farm to table. Visit their retail locations in Manhattan and Overland Park or online at boothcreekwagyu.com. Well, Monty, a big-time win for K-State over Troy. A lot of people thought this game was going to be close, but they needed to get the win. They got it done. Now they head to Missouri. But, man, looking back on that game, it was a pretty fun one.
You know, it was a game that I wasn't concerned about us winning or losing. I felt like we were going to win no matter what. And like you said, I thought it would be a closer game going into the fourth quarter. But the Cats got it together, got it rolling. But I know that game was a good test for us. You know, you don't want to play a not as competitive team going into a game like Missouri the following week. You want to be tested. You want to be able to see what adjustments need to be made and how to get better. And I felt like even though we won handily, Troy still made us adjust and kind of showed us what we need to get better on before we move forward. So it was a good game.
It was a good game. And before we get going, make sure you leave a like on this video and drop a comment. Who is going to be the MVP for this week for K-State against Missouri? I will say, we did have close to a winner on the score predictions in the YouTube comments. Seth DeRusso guessed 42-14. The final was 42-13.
It's impressive.
Seth, thanks for watching. We appreciate your support. Congratulations. You don't have a prize. You just get a shout out.
Attaboy, shit.
Great game. Offensively, K-State put up a lot of numbers, but it wasn't always easy. The first half, there was some struggles. But, man, once they got rolling, especially in that second half, they were really sharp.
Yeah, they did a really good job. We started slow. Troy's a good team, man. They were solid up front. The linebackers flew to the ball. The secondary was confident. So it wasn't an easy out by any means. But like I said before, that put K-State in a situation where we had to overcome adversity early and get into our groove. And then we ultimately imposed our will on them and won the game going away. But yeah, it was a struggle, but we found a way to win, and I felt like K-State will take that into next week moving forward.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of things you can look at in that Troy game, not only as, hey, this was a positive for K-State, but also this is maybe the area they need to work on, and I want to talk about that area first, and I think the main thing is the offensive line play, which I don't think any of us would expect it to be talking about that. I still believe that the offensive line is the strength of this team, but 3.9 yards per average on the ground, 147 yards in total, split up between DJ Giddens, Trayshawn Ward, and Will Howard. Are you worried at all about the offensive line?
No, it's still early. And like I said before, you know, with defense, it's easier to come together early because you know what you're going to do. You can dictate what you want to do. Offense, it takes a little bit longer. Even though these guys have been together for a while, it's still early. We're putting some new plays in. You got a few new skill guys back there outside of DJ and a few other guys, and then Phillip Brooks. Mm-hmm. But it takes a little time. But I think from week 1 to week 2, we definitely improve. Now, am I concerned about the run game going into Missouri? Absolutely, because Missouri, albeit they're not a powerhouse in the SEC, there are still some D1 guys. They got 4-star players, 5-star players that can play. So I think our offensive line needs to be ready going into the game.
I think it did serve as a kind of a good wake-up call. Is, you know what? If I'm Connor Riley, I'm going into the offensive line room saying, you guys have been really good,
right,
but you're still trying to figure some stuff out. You might think you're good, but you're not as good as you think you are, because here are the stats. Like, you can look at it. And specifically, Christian Duffy being out, we don't know if he's going to play. He might play, he might not. Still kind of up in the air. But Cooper Beebe played a lot of right tackle. I thought he looked great out there. That's what you should come to expect from an All-American.
Right.
But the offensive line is, I don't want to say a work in progress, but if there's one area on offense where you feel like K-State can get better, I think it's up there. But again, the fact that that is the one area that you need improvement from, I think that's a good sign, because going into the season, if you would have told me that the receivers would be struggling, I would say, okay, well, that might be harder to fix.
Right.
But if there's anybody that can figure it out, it's the offensive line.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like we have enough experience. And the guys, they've been in pressure situations. It's not like these guys are fresh out of high school, big eyes, their heads are spinning. Not the case. And one thing I did notice about the last 2 games, that's not like us, we had penalties. And not necessarily holding penalties, but false starts or something like that. And I think that's just lack of focus. But I truly believe that Coach Klieman and Coach Riley will have those boys ready next week. Saturday, getting ready for the game against Missouri. But I'd rather get the mistakes out early with 2 victories going into the next game.
Anytime you outscore your opponents 80-something to 13 in the first 2 games of the season, you're doing something right. And that's a Troy team that's going to win a lot of football games.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to win 10 or 11 games, but they're going to be a bowl team, and they're going to beat some people they shouldn't beat. Specifically looking at the skill position guys, I brought it up a little bit. Phillip Brooks, a great day. 2 touchdowns, 94 yards receiving. That Will Howard and Phillip Brooks connection is extremely underrated. He had a big game against Mizzou last year, so we'll talk about that a little bit in the second half. But Phillip Brooks is just so steady. They call him Uncle Phil.
Yeah.
He is the old guy in that wide receiver room, but every week you just know what you're going to get out of him.
Yeah, he kind of had a coming out party, and I know it sounds kind of strange to say because the last couple of years he's been a consistent mainstay, but he's always been overshadowed by Malik Knowles, Deuce Vaughn, other guys that play receiver for us. He's always been overshadowed by those guys. He's been constant. He's been the third choice a lot of times, but last week it was his time to shine, and he didn't disappoint.
Yeah, and that play right before halftime, Will Howard finds Phillip Brooks, and he scores a touchdown. It's 21-10 at halftime. I mean, it could have very easily been 14-10. Troy gets the ball, they go down and score, and you're in oh crap mode. And thankfully for K-State, Will Howard did have that connection with Phillip Brooks. I think on that play in particular, something that shouldn't be overlooked was Jaden Jackson's block to seal it and score a touchdown. Jaden Jackson has been, I think, one of the biggest surprises for this team. The coaches didn't talk about him. And even on Thursday, somebody asked Colin Klein, hey, how do you get Jaden Jackson involved in the offense? And he goes, well, his time was here, and so he stepped up. It's almost like they didn't even know what they had in him.
Yeah, I don't know, who knows. Maybe they didn't talk about him a whole lot because they didn't want people to know about him. Maybe they knew what we had, and they didn't want people to say, wait a minute, who is this guy? They knew about certain players. They knew about Brooks. They knew about Sennett, and maybe they didn't want people to know who is the Jaden Jackson guy. Too late now, people know, and he kind of pops off the screen if you watch film, and the fact that he's wearing number 0, it adds a little more attention to him because I love that number, by the way. It's pretty cool. They didn't have it when I was playing, but I love it now. But he's special, man. He's special. He's fun to watch.
You have 5 legitimate targets on that offense. If you want to throw in the running back, 6, because I think both of those guys can catch the ball out of the backfield. But between Jaden Jackson, between Phillip Brooks, Ben Sennett, now you throw Keegan Johnson into that mix. I mean, it is legitimate, and I think Will Howard is only going to get better with this offense and having all these targets. So, yeah, I think the offense, there's a high ceiling there, and especially with Colin Klein running the show, you feel like you're in good hands, and that was definitely the case on Saturday.
Absolutely. It's good to have weapons, and they all bring different skill set to the game, which is awesome, and they create matchups for defenses no matter who we're going to see. But one thing I want to go back to what you said, the fact that how I love the fact that Coach Klieman had confidence in Coach Klein to continue to attack right before halftime rather than settle, let the clock run out, and go into halftime with the lead. I love the fact that he shows confidence in our offense to go down and try to get a field goal or get a touchdown like we got. That speaks volumes in my opinion. And the fact that our guys are confident enough to do that and not worry about a turnover and potentially giving points to Troy, we went out and we took it and we got points because of it.
I think K-State was able to be successful on Saturday in their base offense. Yeah. That was one of the things that stuck out to me running the ball. They didn't do a lot of powers. They didn't do a lot of counters. They didn't do a lot of RPOs, if any. Mm-hmm. It was they're going to hand the ball off, we're going to run downhill and hit you in the mouth. And it didn't really work totally until the end of the game. They started to figure it out a little bit. I would expect that to change against Mizzou. And looking back at that film last year, we'll talk about that. But, yeah, it was very basic on offense. On defense, flipping to the other side of the ball, I thought they were exceptional.
Yeah, defense was flying around. I'll tell you what, before we started the show, we were talking about a few guys, and Khalid Duke, I just get a big old smile on my face. And it's one of those things where I know last year Felix had a day against Missouri, and I'm thinking about that too. I'm like, if he stays healthy, next week, he should have a day against Missouri. But he kind of got his due as well. He was injured last year, and they moved him around, but he's back where he belongs, and he made plays.
And he's just playing with so much confidence right now. The thing that made Felix so special, I think, was his strength. Mm-hmm. Like, he was super, super fast, but he was stronger than a lot of the guys he went up against. Khalid Duke has the speed and has the strength. He has the length, which is one thing that Felix maybe didn't have.
Right.
Khalid Duke is a legitimate next-level pass rusher. He will play on Sundays. I don't know if he'll get drafted or not, but he has some business to take care of with K-State first. I thought the pass rush, they had 4 sacks. Right. Another guy at the end of the game who got his first career sack, Toby Osensami. I mean, just a freak athlete. Lines up at linebacker, comes out on a blitz, forces a fumble. K-State falls on it. That seals the game. The pass rush was great, but because the pass rush was so great, the secondary was also great.
They were flying to the ball. I tell you what, they didn't allow the quarterback to get comfortable, and once he did get rid of the ball, we were breaking on it, and if they did catch the ball, we got there with bad intentions. It wasn't one of those things where we made a tackle, and next play, they knew that, hey, if I'm catching this ball, I'm about to get hit, and I think our secondary as a whole sent that message. Our corners played well the whole game. They continued to press. There was no panic when the ball did go deep. It was all-out team defensive effort, and it showed. And going back to defense, coming into the game, we knew Troy had a good running game. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to say they shut them down, but they definitely contained them.
I'll say they shut them down. You won't say it, but I will say it. 70 yards rushing, 46 of it came on one play.
Yeah.
So
that's impressive.
That is impressive.
That's impressive.
And some of that has to do with sack yardage. The running back had more total yards than the team rushing. So that just tells you how many havoc plays. Kleinerman likes to talk about havoc plays, causing havoc in the backfield. Mm-hmm. But to give up 70 yards rushing on the day that's really impressive. And one thing Missouri struggles with is running the football a little bit. I think K-State's going to have a serious advantage on that side of the ball when it comes to the run game. But, yeah, I thought the defense was outstanding. The linebacker play, Austin Moore. This is a guy who I don't think we talk about enough. He is going to go down as one of the better linebackers to play at K-State. And in 10 years, people are going to be like, oh, yeah, I remember Austin Moore. But they're not going to remember the kind of impact he's made because he's just an unassuming talent, and he just is incredible to watch.
He's solid, he's consistent, and he's just another guy, a long line of walk-ons that worked their way. They didn't feel sorry for themselves, and they continue to compete. And the coaches, hey, we got a player on our hand. We're gonna get him a scholarship, and now he's a leader, and he consistently makes plays. And when you're in there, short yard downs, I see him in there, I'm not worried. I know he's going to make plays.
He's so fast.
He is.
If you go back to the 4th down play, I believe it was early in the game, Javon Banks, Mississippi State transfer, comes in at nose guard. Mm-hmm. He blows up the play, takes up 2 blockers, and Austin Moore just runs across the face of a tight end who's trying to block him. If you're an offensive coordinator, why are you trying to have a tight end block Austin Moore? I don't get that. But he just flies by him, tackles him for a loss. K-State gets the ball, they turn it over on downs. That was a big play in the game, but between Daniel Green and Austin Moore, those 2 guys had great games, and K-State's going to need them along with everybody else on that defense if they want to win on Saturday.
I agree, and the good thing about it, K-State once again did a great job of rotating players. You had a lot of guys come in on situational downs and made plays when they had to, so there was no panic. It was quality downs. It wasn't waste downs. It wasn't mop-up duty. They came in when the game was still on the line, and they have good experience. I would say this year's team is probably deeper at every position that I've seen in the last 4 or 5 years. And it's quality depth, and it's young depth, and it's healthy depth. So I think that's going to play a role moving forward, especially going into Saturday's game.
Agreed. Well, we will talk about Saturday's game against the Missouri Tigers when we come back after this short break. Don't forget, we're sponsored by Booth Creek Wagyu. We'll see you on the other side.
Diets and workouts, you've done the work, so why can't you get to your goal weight? That's because up to 70% of your weight is predetermined by your genetics. So while you've been told that it's all about your willpower, you're actually fighting your biology. Don't do it alone. Found's Doctor Design program uses medication as part of a treatment plan that targets your body's unique biological needs, so that your body works with you and not against you. Take the quiz at joinfound.com to see if Found's weight loss program is right for you.
Welcome back in here to the Friday Walkthrough. Cole Carmody alongside Monty Spillard. We are sponsored by Booth Creek Wagyu. Stop into their retail shops, Manhattan and Overland Park. Get you some beef. The beef will be headed to Columbia on Saturday. You're going to Columbia. I'm going to Columbia. The Go Powercat staff will be there. There's going to be a lot of purple in attendance.
Yeah, no doubt. It's fun because on social media, personal and national ones, a lot of people that are K-State fans are asking questions like, where's the pre-games at? Where's K-State's section at? What are you wearing? People are excited. You know, it's one of those things for me as a player, former player, I was fortunate enough to play Missouri in the Big 8 and the Big 12. I'm kind of dating myself, but and never lost to them.
There you go.
That's even better. But it's exciting, you know. And whenever you can play an old conference, I wouldn't say rival, but sure rival, it's always good because they left to go to the SEC, and I'm not knocking them, to each their own. And they felt like it was, you know, greener on the other side. But I'm glad we're still where we're at and doing really well. Former Big 12, not last year's Big 12 champions, but it's exciting to play a Missouri, and I'm pumped.
It's gonna be a great game. Don't forget, leave a comment in the YouTube section right now. Put it on pause. Go down. Type your comment. Who is going to be the MVP of this game? If you are right, I'll be the judge of that, and we'll pick out. Hopefully, we give out a few shout-outs. Okay, so that is the plan for that. Talking about this game in particular, there is a lot of storylines regarding this game. I mean, yes. You have Missouri, who's 2-0, but they squeaked by Middle Tennessee State last year. Could have very easily lost that game. K-State coming off of 2 dominant wins. K-State's program trending up. Missouri, their recruiting's trending up. Yeah. But 6-7 last year with a bowl game loss. If Missouri loses this game, is Eli Drinkwitz on the hot seat?
No, not at this point, because lucky for him, it's early enough in the season. He could win a few SEC games and kind of save them for a year. But I will say if he does lose, there will be some more questions brought up and think about, you know what, you're a great recruiter, but those 4 and 5 stars aren't translating to wins. Mm-hmm. What's going on? So I'm not going to say he's going to be on the hot seat, but it could get uncomfortable.
It could. Last year's game was 40-12. Folks might remember it was rainy. There was a delay. Mm-hmm. I think everybody's kind of come to the agreement that K-State won that game because they dominated up front. If you go back to that game, last year K-State had 235 yards rushing. Now, Will Howard had not taken over as quarterback. It was still Adrian Martinez. But still, they found a way to put up 40 points against Mizzou. It's going to be nice weather. Yeah. Projected to be 70 degrees outside. So Missouri fans, K-State fans, don't bring your ponchos. You hopefully won't have to deal with that. But let's dig into this Missouri team a little bit. I want to talk about their offense because they're led at quarterback by Brady Cook. K-State fans saw him last year. He's a mobile guy. Yeah. He's not going to win you very many games. He won't necessarily lose you any games, but he's just kind of there. I hate saying that, but I feel like that's the best way to describe Brady Cook is he's just there.
Yeah, he's one of those guys where if he's hot, he could hurt you. Mm-hmm. You know, it's one of those, but you can't allow him to get hot. And I feel like he plays off momentum. Mm-hmm. He's one of those guys where he's mobile, and if the pocket breaks down and he needs to make a scramble play or make a play off a broken play, he can do that. But if you are putting constant pressure on him, I think he'll quit early. And I think he's one of those guys where the situation has to be perfect for him to be able to produce high numbers and a lot of yards against any team.
Well, and when you look at the offensive line for Missouri, they have struggled, and there's no secret to that. They only had 2.4 yards per rush last week against Middle Tennessee State. So that is not their strong suit necessarily. But they've been moving some guys around. If you listen to the PowerCat pregame podcast, Aaron Ryan Walsh did a great job talking about their offensive line. Highly recommend listening to that. But they're just kind of in a state of flux right now. And I will say, if you want to talk about where Mizzou can beat you when they are on offense, it is at the receiver position. Luther Burden, a guy who we talked about last year, the 5-star true freshman a year ago, is now a sophomore. He leads the team, and it's not even close. 34 completions for Mizzou on the season. Luther Burden has 15 catches.
Yeah. Well, that's impressive. And we know he is their guy. The good news is, like you said, they don't run the ball well. And so we can put 5 or 6 guys in the box if needed. And if you know what, you want to go for him, we can double him. We can run some a high safety over the top, and we're going to bracket him. Until you can prove that you can run the ball against us, we're not going to worry about it. We got stud linebackers in the box that can make plays. We're going to force you to beat us over the top, and when you do try to go over the top, we're going to double your best guy and then let your other guys try to beat our stud corners one-on-one. So good luck.
And that's just, I think that's going to be the game plan for Joe Klanderman, especially when you look down. The next highest receiver on that team has 4 completions.
Yeah.
So it's Luther Burden and legitimately everybody else. Now, there is some talent on that receiving corps. Theo Weiss, Oklahoma transfer. They brought him in to replace Dominic Lovett, who's at Georgia now. But Theo Weiss, former 5-star recruit, scored a touchdown against K-State last year at Oklahoma. He's a very talented guy. But again, only 4 catches so far on the year. Another guy, a local kid, Mekhi Miller, Blue Valley North, true sophomore. He is another guy. Those are your top 3 receivers at Missouri, and all 3 of those guys can beat you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking Missouri as a team. I understand whenever you get somewhat of a rivalry game or a pride game, Big 12 versus SEC, and it's a home game for them, especially them coming back from last year getting mopped in Manhattan. Trust me, I guarantee their coaching staff has reminded those guys several times this week about the thumping we put on them. So I know as a young man, I use certain things as motivation. So you better believe Missouri is going to be ready. Now, can they maintain that level of energy? I don't know, but I know K-State understands it's not going to be a walk in the park, and we better get ready for a good fight.
And I will say this about Brady Cook. He is a veteran quarterback. So you're probably not going to be able to confuse him with, disguises on defense maybe as much as they were last year. But they're going to bring the house.
Oh, yeah.
If there's one thing we know about Joe Klanderman, it's he likes to blitz. And when you have an offensive line that's reeling, when they're on the ropes, Joe Klanderman can feel that. It would not shock me for K-State if they blitz on 60% of the snaps, because I truly believe their goal is to make Brady Cook beat them.
Yeah, and they will put pressure on them, make them uncomfortable. And if I'm Coach Klanderman, I would too. I would blitz a high percentage of the time, and because I know I have 2 studs back deep at safety. I call them S square, Siegel and Savage.
There we go, S squared.
So when you got two dudes back there that are ball hawks, but that will hit you in the mouth also, the quarterback needs to get the ball out fast. So if I'm a receiver, I'm thinking I got to make a business decision. Do I want to go across the middle and try to make this play knowing this guy is coming for me or this guy is coming for me? And I think Coach Klanderman understands that, and he knows what he can do with that.
And it'll be interesting to see how Will Lee and Jacob Parrish are tested. This is the first test. They had a really good test last week with Troy.
Right.
I mean, those receivers, some of those catches they made were just ridiculously incredible.
Man, that was
it's
crazy.
Amazing. And so they have been ready. I think they've kind of worked themselves up from, SEMO to then you take a step up to Troy, and now you're ready to play with the big dogs. I think it's great progression. It'll be interesting to see how they fare. But, again, I think if Missouri wants to have success, it's going to be because the quarterback has success. If the quarterback doesn't have success, Missouri could be in for a long day.
Yeah, I agree, and I feel like Coach Klanderman will also implement Desmond Purnell, and because he's a tweener guy. I know he was a safety coming out of Topeka Hayden, and now he's a linebacker. But I can see Coach Klanderman using him as a spy, bringing him in on 3rd down situation to say, "Hey, you watch the quarterback. If he leaves the pocket, you go get him."
And he's fast. I mean, people forget that Desmond Purnell,
he can run.
He was a safety, right? That's that safety background. So yeah, K-State has the personnel to defend this Missouri offense. The Missouri offense that admittedly doesn't have as many big plays. I know Missouri fans are a little frustrated with their quarterback not able to throw the deep ball.
Right.
K-State will give up the intermediate routes all day because they are extremely good on the opposing side of the 50 at limiting first downs and limiting touchdowns in the red zone. They don't want the opponent to get there, but when they do get there, they're very comfortable playing. So I think if K-State wants to have success, if they want to win this game, it's going to be on the backs of the defense. Flipping it over to the offensive side, Missouri has been very okay on defense. Offense is their calling card. That is where they have the skill position players. On the defensive side, Tyrone Hopper, defensive end, who is one of the best pass rushers in the SEC conference. He is one of those guys that just feels like he might be able to make a play against K-State. So we'll see how that goes, but that is one guy to watch. The Florida transfer. How does K-State guard him? That is the main question.
I think we'll bring it back. We'll have fullback, H-back. We'll put sitting in the backfield. If you feel like if it's a third down, long situation, we'll have extra protection, and we're not going to allow him to get to Will and disrupt us in the backfield. Or we do play action, slow him down a little bit. We might run at him, run speed option. We might read him. If we know he's on the right, he's their guy, we're going to read him. Based off what he does, we'll do the opposite. And so I feel like Coach Klein will have a game plan for that because he is their guy, and we know that too. So I'm not overly concerned because we've seen quality DNs from SEMO and from Troy. So it's not like we haven't seen dudes on the other side of the ball, but I think we'll be ready for that.
Their leading tackler is a defensive lineman, Darius Robinson. You don't see that very often for a defensive lineman to be the leading tackler. To me, what that says is the linebackers have probably not been as good as Missouri would have hoped. If you have a defensive lineman leading the team in tackles, that's usually because teams get through the first line of defense and you're just there either A, as a chase down, or B, maybe you do make a good play, but usually it's the linebacker. So that's interesting. Joseph Charleston, a safety, it's another guy to keep an eye on. But again, I just see this K-State offense putting up massive numbers against Missouri.
Honestly, I feel like Missouri knows they can't score with us. And I feel like they're going to try to slow the game down. And then that's just my opinion. I know they have good passing weapons, but I feel like they're going to try to slow the game down. But on the flip side, I think K-State is going to come out. And like you said, our O-line, they weren't bad, but they weren't great. And I feel like our O-line is going to come out, and we want to run the ball. And I think we're going to come out sometime in two backs, and you're going to see a formation that you haven't seen. It's going to go back to the Coach Demo days when Winston was playing as well, and come back with two fullbacks and a running back in the backfield, and we're going to oppose our will. I think we're going to show Missouri that we are a powerful Big 12 team that can run the ball. We're going to break them, and then at that point, go deep on them.
That's what happened last year. K-State, 235 yards rushing. We mentioned it earlier in the show. But, man, I watched that film last year, and you look at the power and the counters and the guards pulling, the tackles pulling, the center getting involved. I mean, K-State was pulling their offensive linemen like crazy. And if you go back and watch those highlights, Adrian Martinez's touchdown run, Cooper Beebe and Hayden Gillum both plant their defenders in the turf. This is going to be a personal game, and it wouldn't shock me if K-State, if that offensive line, they hear everything that we talk about. Players can say they don't listen, they don't see things. Everybody's on social media. They understand. They're going to come out with a chip on their shoulder, and it wouldn't shock me if K-State runs for 230 yards again.
I'm with you, and I'm hoping that's what happens. I honestly, as a fan of power football for a long time, and I love when they sling it around, but there's something about a team going into another team's place and running the ball down their throats and imposing their will and basically saying, we're better than you, you can't stop us. That's a great feeling.
It's a mentality thing.
It is.
I feel, and I know K-State has that mentality. We've seen it time in and time out. Will Missouri be able to respond? What happens if K-State gets the ball first, they go down on a 6-minute drive and rush for 70 yards and score a touchdown? I don't know how Missouri will react. Right? That'll be something to watch. But I do know this, that Eli Drinkwitz is in for a fight because Chris Klieman remembers what happened at the end of the year. They asked him in the press conference on Tuesday, have you thought about the ending of the game? And Chris Klieman was like, what are you talking about? Oh, yeah, no, I don't believe that for a second. He remembers that he called timeout with 0 seconds left on the clock to score a touchdown. Right. There's a little bit extra in this game.
It is, and I'm glad that Coach Klieman keeps it in-house. He's not one of those guys that's going to go in the media to give another team fire, but I can guarantee, I'm not going to reach out to any of the players, but I know there's some motivation. Even though we're we're favored, there's motivation because we are K-State and they are Missouri, and it's Big 12 versus SEC, and it's one of those things where I feel like K-State understands that, the seniors on the team understand that, and the guys who played in the game last year understands that, because we want to be top dog no matter what. And it's funny you say that, because I have friends that are KU fans, and they have reached out to me. And they don't like K-State, but they hate Missouri. And they're like, this is one time I'm going to say go K-State because it's Missouri. So I can honestly say the whole state of Kansas is behind us come Saturday. So,
I agree with that statement.
So
I agree. The line for this game you mentioned is 4.5. My thinking on this is, if you've watched either team, this line makes no sense whatsoever. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money, but if you are a gambler, I would definitely take K-State. We put our weekly betting article up on the website. I think K-State's going to have a great opportunity to win this game as we get into our predictions. I asked the fans to leave their comment for MVP. So before we get to the scores, who is going to be the MVP of this game?
It's easy to go with the quarterback, but I think DJ Gittin. I think he's going to have a heck of a game. I feel like he kind of took the back burner last week, and Phillip Brooks shined, and Missouri is aware of Phillip Brooks, and they're not great against run defense. I think he's going to be the MVP of the game. That's
a really good pick. I'm going to go with Ben Sinnott. One catch for 5 yards against Troy just feels like a Missouri thing to do, where this guy only had one catch. He didn't really do much against us last year. We'll just kind of, and then Ben Sinnott just explodes. I could see Ben Sinnott catching a touchdown or two and putting up 75 to 100 yards. He is one of the best tight ends in college football. There will not be very many times when he has one catch on the weekend, but I think you're right. I think between Ben Sinnott, both of those guys will have a major impact on this game. So let's get into the score prediction. I went first last week. You can go first this week. Who you got and what's your score?
Well, I got Cats, and I got them winning 35-17.
35-17. See, usually I'm the one who is a little bit more on the conservative side, but I've been saying for pretty much ever since the end of the season that K-State is going to absolutely bludgeon Missouri. I don't think this game's going to be close, and I'm not afraid to say that. It wouldn't shock me if K-State wins by 3 scores. It really wouldn't shock me. I'm going to take the final as 42-20. I don't even know if Missouri will score 2 touchdowns. I just think this K-State team is ready to go out there and really send a message. I mean, they are legitimate. I mean, you watched this team last year, and then you watch this team this year, and they're really good.
They are, and here's the fun thing about, and we're used to being in this position. You got other teams around us in the national media and that are doing good things, doing great things, and then there's K-State, and we're just kind of flying under the radar, continuing to get better, staying in the top 20, top 15, and they haven't forgot about us, but nobody's really thinking about us, and all of a sudden, 3 games into the season, 4 games into the season. Wait a minute, K-State's in the top 12, top 10. Don't overlook us.
It's going to be a fun game on Saturday. Hope to see you there. We'll be there. If you're watching it at home, enjoy the game. If you're going to Faurot Field, well, you better wear your purple.
Exactly.
We'll talk to you next Friday.
Go Cats.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
Call It What You Want is a brand new podcast part of the CBS Sports Golazo Network, covering every angle of the United States men's national team. I'm Jimmy Conrad, and I'll be joining Jesse Marsh and Charlie Davies every week for a passionate, informed, and unapologetic conversation about all things U.S. men's national team, like tactics, American players home and abroad, match previews and recaps, interviews, and more. As our boys get set to compete for hardware in the CONCACAF Nations League Finals, the Olympics, and the Copa America in 2024, Call It What You Want will be along for the ride to provide expert analysis and unfiltered opinions, so fasten your seatbelts. And don't forget to download and follow on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.